So, we'll start with an easy question. If you just tell me your names and who you play in the show.
I'm Calum and I play Nick and Paul.
I'm Fraser, I play Ray and Joe.
I'm Charlie and I play Orville and Nat.
Amazing. And for anybody who doesn't know the show, can you tell me a little bit about it?
So, shall I start this then? So it's
He was looking in your direction.
Yeah, he was.
so it's based on basically there's a patchwork quilt that was made basically as a memorial ace quilt, which was made for people who had and died of HIV and AIDS, and each patchwork is for an individual person, and basically each of the sort of monologue is based around a real person that had HIV and died. And so then it's all different stories about people from all walks of life who basically based on this patchwork quilt essentially is, I'm trying to work out in the simplest way that's not going to ruin anything.
It was made because people didn't get once it sort of like hit, people didn't get funerals, so this was a way of celebrating life. It was a way of having like families and friends be able to remember their friends. And essentially in our version of the show, it is somebody that's coming down to lay a quilt and looking around the rest of them and seeing all the stories sort of unfold about how these people got AIDS in their own walks of life and how it affected them and how they lived beyond it.
Yeah, celebration of their lives, basically, in a quilt, in a patchwork.
And had any of you seen the show, or were you familiar with it?
No.
We were not.
I'd heard of Angels, Punks and Raging Queens, the song. I knew the song, and when I heard the title, I went, I know that show.
No.
But I didn't know any of the stories, I didn't know most of the songs, I didn't really know what it was about. And then when I find out we had an audition, I listened to the soundtrack, and then was like, oh my god, this is beautiful. And then obviously you start hearing all the monologues and the stories. But I'm kind of glad I hadn't seen a version before.
Me too.
Just because it gets a complete
really fresh. As well as that, is one of them, because of the way that it's done and the way we rehearsed it, was that you didn't get to actually watch. When you didn't know the show, you didn't get to watch everyone. So a lot of the time, when you were watching somebody's monologue, you were watching not the final version, but very close to the final version for the first time. So like, you got to feel like a glimpse of what the audience might feel before everything gets the lights and the staging and stuff added on.
There was definitely a feeling of every time a new scene would be unveiled to us as a cast, it was almost like we had to get that chance of celebrating together, and there was definitely a unity in the room that we all shared from like, oh, we've done this scene, we feel like we're part of that story now, so we were able to share that together.
Yeah. It was that thing where at the start of rehearsing every monologue, the first thing we would do is sit in a group, a bit like a life support group, and that person would just like tell everyone their monologue, would just say it as if they were just telling their friends. So like you would hear it for the first, like if you hadn't read it before going in, the first time you would hear it would just be somebody like telling it to you, like straight to your face.
And it was so honest.
Yeah,
it was
just really nice.
Because it's not about, it's not a caricature, it was people's real lives, people went through this. So for us as the actors, it was actually imperative. The more natural, the more truthful, the more it rings across, And
how's it been for you as actors, hearing these stories and portraying them?
Difficult. Also a surprise, I think, to see the limits in which we can go with that naturalism to understand the stories. I remember reading the script on a National Express bus. I remember reading this. I remember reading the script for the first time, and I was horrified at what I was reading, because it is a true story. And I think, for me as an actor, I knew that telling these stories was going to be a difficult job. But for Bryan to say to us, it's not about, there is difficulty in it, but it's stronger to be able to celebrate that. Yeah. And I think that was the thing that kind of got us through as actors.
I think it's one thing as well, like having a script that is a fictional script and you're creating this character out of nothing, but then when you know that the person you're playing, it sort of hit me like I would do rehearsal, do it, and then like a week later I go, oh my god, actually that's a real person.
Yeah.
Oh god, oh my, this is so much more.
Yeah.
Well, so much more, do you know what I mean? And
I feel that's what makes the show so interesting, because like when you're in the midst of the show, it is very, like, especially when we were in the middle of rehearsals, like it was really hard to get bogged down by about how heavy rehearsals sometimes felt, and we would muck about to have a bit of fun. But whenever we were doing the show, as Fraser said, like Bryan was like, at the end of the day, it's like it's not happening to them right now. The way we're portraying the show is they are telling this story, and they're not. None of the monologues ever go, oh, like this was what it was like to have it, and this is all the symptoms I went through. They go, I had it. This is how I lived the rest of my life. Yeah. And I think that's the really pivotal point of this show, because then it means that when we get to the end, and the end of Act 1 and the end of Act 2, which are big celebratory numbers, like it is just us going out to the audience, and the bits that we thought would be so like nervous with the audience, like being like, oh, we're going to look out the audience and be like, come on guys, let's go, and they're just going to be like, but everyone's always up for it. Everyone wants to boogie. Everyone wants to give you a wave and a smile.
And and because it doesn't come from a place of cheese and drama, you know, like it could come across, but for us in this story, we're constantly reminded, listen, at the end of this, we're reminding you, just as we're reminding ourselves every night, this is a celebration of people's lives, you know? They weren't remembered for that time, that's why they create the patchwork. At the end of the day, we're here celebrating it, so...
It's like a weird feel-good musical. You know what I mean? Because like the amount of people that say when you come out of it, you feel like really good in a strange way. You don't feel like you should, but you feel good because you're like, you know what? Like you never know when something's going to happen. You should just enjoy life, and that's the message of the show more than ooh, it's terrifying.
And how's it been working with such a big cast?
It's been nice actually.
Dressing room smells.
That's nobody's fault.
It's been nice actually, because it is unusual to have such a big ensemble, but I think it's been one of those things that it's felt very supportive, because everyone during performances around the outside of the stage as well, you feel like there's this constant group feeling of everyone's always around you, in the least like way, but it does feel like that. And I think having that big ensemble as well is just the amount of, because everyone sort of mainly plays sort of two different characters. There's just so many different characters. It's like another one. Well, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think as well, because like when we started rehearsing it, like it was really hard to get to know everyone. But really, like now it's like because there's like sometimes you'll have a section of the show where you're on and then you're off, and you're on and you're off, and then you might have like 5 monologues where you just sit at the side, but like you never switch off, because like just through the process everyone is like so close, because you're talking about so many heavy things, and it's such a vulnerable show that everyone that's in it has to be vulnerable, so like everyone's just so, you watch with just a sense of pride, like everyone is so supportive.
I think in terms of the big cast that you mentioned, the 16 of us who are putting this show on and telling these stories, I think to be surrounded by such talent and such naturalism, I think is actually very inspiring to be a part of and to be surrounded by. So that, with what Calum said, with having that support and the idea that Bryan's going with the kind of interlinked way this show is put together, I think it matches perfectly for the amount of people that we have. I think any more would be a bit confusing, any less would be a lot more pressure to portray many different characters. I think at the moment, with the space we have and the people we have, I think it works really well.
And tell me more about Bryan.
Oh, what a day! What a his mind is just something to behold. Like the way he sees things is. We've all had a collective. I don't know if it's something you can. I've tried to put it into words, to him, and he's not very good at receiving it. But for us, there's been moments where he has been in the room and he'll have an idea, and there's a feeling of like, wow, this is going to work. You see it on its feet, and you see it.
I think he has such a connection with the piece, and you can tell that it's like something that he's loved for a long, long time. And I don't know about you, but it was nice being in the room with. So it was Bryan, then our choreographer Adam as well. They'd work like, oh my god,
my word.
Like one person would
they're
say
like
something,
telepathic,
and they'd be like that, and before you know it, they've created this entire scene around you. And you're like, what? How did that happen?
And to see that translate onto this space when you actually see it for the first time, being something, being alive, being something that's going to be put onto an audience, you go, how's your mind together made such a scene? It's like almost.
Well, I think as well, it's the way they've then worked with the tech team as well. Because when you look at the set, like it's a blank stage, like, there's nothing there, and it's the way that they've used the lights and Bryan and Adam have like collaborated together, and they create like. You've got some sequences where it's like full-on physical theatre movements where it's like, oh, we're in a bus, we're here, we're doing.
And even the sound.
And even, and the sound effect.
Henry on sound, Justin with the set, Peggy who's running it all, like... It's almost like when it started building and coming together, it was almost like, wow, this is actually turning into something very exciting and something that's actually living and breathing as opposed to just in the rehearsal room being fragmented. Do you know what I mean? So it was so lovely to see everyone just absolutely on it and bringing it all together and being so proud of
It'd be very nice. Maybe we should say something horrible about Bryan.
Yeah.
He smells a wee bit.
What do you hope an audience is going to take away from this production?
Like to live life to the fullest.
I think
you should celebrate. As we said, like you should celebrate every moment you have, and no matter what happens in your life, you should just.
I think as well, it's that thing where it's like life is short, life's unpredictable, and also like in the world that we live in now, where technology is everywhere. Like, I think one of the other big things about the show is just like the human connection. Yeah. Like a lot of these characters like start out like a bit isolated, and it's about finding other people. And the opening monologue, Patrick, that Chris plays, he talks about how when he got AIDS, like he became so proud of his community because he found this whole new community and these people, and he enjoyed life almost more when he had it because he just found all these people and he realised all the things that he took for granted, and then therefore for the rest of his time he used it wisely and he used it and did what he wanted to do. So I feel like when audiences leave, that's like, life's short, life's unpredictable, you don't know what's going to happen, go out.
Live your life. You're in London, you know.
You're probably skint, but you know what? Go for that bottle of wine. Like, it makes you feel good. Like,
amazing. Right, that's it. I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, lovely.
hey,
The rest of them.